Welcome to the Real Estate Real Success podcast, where we talk about key business successes and lessons learned along the way in the hopes of inspiring brokerage owners and managers to find new ways to grow their business. I'm Chiyoko Kakino. In this episode, we're going to learn about what type of leadership and culture is needed to thrive in today's rapidly changing world. I have the honor to be joined here by Martin Charlwood. He is the president and CEO of Century 21 Canada, headquartered out of Vancouver, British Columbia. Martin, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thanks for inviting me, and it's my pleasure to be here with you.
We all know that it's been a roller coaster over the past 18 months, and I don't want to specifically talk about COVID because I think we're all COVID out, but I want to talk about what you've learned over the past year and a half and how you've taken those lessons learned and adapted the C21 business and your leadership style to ensure that you're best supporting our brokerage owners, our realtors, and at the end of the day, our consumer. So let's go back to early 2020 when the lockdowns began. What was your biggest challenge during that time and how did you overcome it?
Well, I think it's quite interesting. In fact, my last business trip was me attending and participating in the Winnipeg Broker Owner, I guess the Manitoba Broker Owner Council's award event in the middle of March 2020. And when I left that auspicious event and came home, virtually overnight, the entire world had come to a pause. Certainly Canada had, and then other countries all began to really shut down. And I must admit, that really did give us pause and made us rethink how we were going to support our brokers in a very uncertain time. What we realized was that very quickly we could pivot and provide a lot of the support and resources that we previously had face-to-face, and we could do those virtually. So what we did overnight with a very ambitious and able-bodied management team is that we created daily webinars for agents, as well as weekly webinars for owner broker managers to teach them some of the best practices that we were aware of in supporting folks out in the field during these unprecedented times. We were able to pivot and provide virtual support, teach them how to do the things that were most important in staying close to their customers. And then we also provided the ability for them to do virtual open houses, which is crucial when trying to land new listings and then get them sold. So very quickly, we were able to adapt to a virtual world, and our network in the field were very, very happy to receive that support, and really were able to run with it almost overnight.
How has this experience changed the way you run the company or the type of support and guidance that C21 provides its network?
Yeah, I think if I reflect back on what helped us put Century 21 on the map when we first brought the brand to Canada in the late 70s, we were the first to really embrace a training culture. In fact, many of us many in the industry referred to us as the IBM in the real estate market, because we were very, very good at doing that training. And what we really focused on was not only teaching people how to recruit new agents to their brokerage, but also how to retain them once they came on board. And crucial in doing all of that is to provide the training skills to make a new agent or an existing agent successful in their career arc. And we also wanted to make sure that we were training people so that they understood the technological and full-bodied resources that were available to them for having been part of Century 21. And then, of course, once you know what you've got, to understand how that differentiates you from your competitors. So we were able to do that very, very robustly, and to transition the support and training of all of that to go online. And then another thing that was also very important to us is that in the 40 plus years that we've been operating this brand in Canada, we've really created a family feel to our organization. Our fellow brokers and our fellow agents aren't just another Century 21 person down the road, but they're actually a part of an important family. And what we've recognized is that we've created a culture that really allows brokers to help one another and agents within the Century 21 family to help each other, not to see it as competition, but to see unilaterally as one unit in the marketplace going after making our customers happy.
Okay, let's talk about leadership, because leadership is so important in ensuring that a brokerage is successful, specifically and especially during trying times. So what type of leadership skills do you think a brokerage owner or a manager needs to thrive in today's environment?
Leadership is often the difference between success or failure. And it's important that we instill that in as many of our broker owners as we possibly can, those leadership skills that we think are most important when building a successful brokerage. First off, if you're not growing, you're contracting. So what we're looking for and what we try to cultivate in our broker owners is a passion for growth and the knowledge on how to succeed in growing your business. Growth, just for the sake of growth, is not the panacea. It's actually growing profitably. That's the most important. That's what we try to support. And those are how we try to guide them going forward. I think it's probably fair to say as well that real estate is not necessarily a technology industry, but technology has invaded every part of our lives, and the real estate industry is no exception. So we need to make sure that we've got people that are showing an interest in technology and understanding how these tools can be used to help support the leadership drive for growing your brokerage, recruiting new agents, and then also helping the ones that are already on board to be successful and making sure that they've got what they need in servicing their clients' needs. I think it's really important also in the culture that you create in a brokerage that agents that come under your brokerage need to understand that the broker owner and the management of that brokerage absolutely care about their long-term success. That's really the issue. They are catering to, supporting, and servicing the needs of the agent so that they can be successful. When the agents are successful, then the brokerage as a whole becomes successful.
All right, let's talk about culture now. What should brokerage owners and managers do to maintain or enhance their culture in what really now is called a hybrid working model? Because now it's really quite different, right? We're not having those conversations at the water cooler. We're not able to give a hug if someone is having a bad day. We're not able to be together all the time. So what do you think, owners need to do in order to continue to keep their culture? Because some of them, that is their main value proposition.
It's interesting how you mentioned the water cooler. None of us ever expected this set of circumstances to be around, almost coming on 2 years now. We're certainly at the 18-month mark. And I think a lot of people miss those interactions. But what's really important is whether you're doing it virtually or whether you're doing it in person when those circumstances allow in-person interaction. It's really important that you recruit to your brokerage culture. And I think it's really important to improve the agent recruiting process. So if you are a brokerage and you believe in the full value proposition of supporting your agents from soup to nuts, it's really important that you recruit agents that appreciate that, because if they're not aligned to the culture that you are trying to build in your organization, that will become problematic for you in the long run. So we really work with our brokers to understand what kind of culture they would like to foster in their particular brokerage. And then we guide them and help provide them with resources on how to recruit to that culture. That sometimes takes into consideration the questions that you ask when you're reviewing candidates to join your organization. And long and short of it is, if you hire correctly and hire to your culture, you will avoid having big issues down the road. And that's a big part of what we've learned, certainly over the last few decades, but also highlighted and accentuated in the current and unique circumstances we find ourselves in. Obviously, virtual meetings has been what's happening all around the world. It's not just in the real estate industry, it's happening in many industries around the world. Office meetings are no longer in person, or very few of them are in person, but you got to get good at being virtual. And what we're actually finding is that because of the ability to use tools like Zoom and WhatsApp video and various other, go-to meetings, if you will, it allows us to have more frequent contact with our agents and to do it virtually, but do it where we can see them eye to eye, maybe not in person. And that really helps foster a real camaraderie about how we can help them become more successful in their careers. A couple of examples I can share with you as well, and trying to adapt in these current times. We've had a couple of our brokerages, Century 21, BJ Roth and Barry. They recently, their last Christmas party that they hired a whole bunch of food trucks and had an outdoor event so people could mix and mingle in a more safe environment. But it wasn't your typical, dinner or Christmas party inside where people were concerned about close proximity to one another. We also have had, I think, Century 21 Millennium had an event for their top producers. They took them all to Niagara Falls. And of course, leading up to this event, they said, we're really looking forward to celebrating your successes, but you need to make sure you're double vaccinated before you come to the event. So people feel comfortable when they're meeting with each other. And these are the types of things that we have found have been successful. And lots of people have been doing them. And we've got great feedback on it.
Martin, I really like how you say hard to culture, because that is so true. No matter what industry you're in, it's so important to do that. Let's talk about now best in class, because at Century 21, we always say, what's a best in class, best in class? So what do you think some of the best in class examples are that brokerage owners are doing right now to ensure that they're supporting their agents?
Oh, it's a question we get asked many times. I think it's really important. If you want to build a successful business, whether you are a broker owner or whether you're an agent building your book of business, you need to have a roadmap. And that basically starts in the business planning process. So, when you refer to best in class, what we really encourage our brokerages to do is to make sure they've got a concise, well thought through business plan. And then we encourage our brokers and the managers that support the agents in the field to also develop their own personal business plans. And it's really important that you provide support and guidance in the creation of the plan at the outset, that there's support ongoing during the year for following the business plan, but most importantly, that there's accountability built into it. Because, if you're not being held accountable to what you've got as your goals, then how are you going to reach them in the first place? So that's super important. And what we did is we pivoted. We were actually doing this before the pandemic hit, but we shifted a lot of our education platform online, where we have a very robust Century 21 University. And we have the ability to provide facilitator workbooks for our broker owners, and they can then deliver the content and teach their agents how to be very successful in the business planning so that they can achieve the goals that they've set themselves out for at the beginning of each year. I think the great brokers, they provide that type of support, and that really makes the agents feel as though they're number one, that their success is put before the brokerage's success. Because as I said earlier, a successful brokerage is only built on a group of successful agents, and that's super, super important. I think another thing that we've been in process of developing over the last few years is our in-house Century 21 concierge program. So what we do is we get each broker owner to designate either themselves or one of their management team to be the in-house concierge, whose responsibility it is to know each and every one of the systems and programs that we have available in the Century 21 system, so that any agent at any time who has a question about what might be available or how to use it, they have a local resource in their own brokerage to figure out what is out there that they can use that's already been proven as a tool to make them more successful. So we really believe in that. I mean, and through this concierge program, we have the ability to help people hyper localize their own individual agent website. We teach them how to utilize our robust Hub 21 marketing platform and how to build their CRM in there so that they can be very well connected and proactive in their communication with their customer set as they look to get new listings, as they look to get referrals, and as they look to sell properties on behalf of their constituents.
So Martin, there's been a lot of discussion around what the future of brokerages looks like in real estate. And so what do you think are the biggest opportunities for brokerages moving forward?
I made mention of it a little while earlier. Business is very robust and very competitive these days. And generally speaking, we find if you're not growing, then you're doing the opposite. You're often contracting. And I think what's super important to note is that there is a vast opportunity for growth in this industry. Lots of people have recognized that the real estate industry has almost been a pandemic-proof industry. It's been robust. We've got agents and brokers reporting to us that during the last 18 months, they've had the best 18 months they've ever had in the history of their career in real estate. And so I think the biggest opportunity is to take advantage of the growth potential in your local community. And I think another part of what should be in the back of the minds and moving to the middle and the forefront of brokers' minds is some of the other ancillary real estate related product offerings that you can put on the table for your customers, namely mortgage. Not often do people buy houses with full cash. they need some financing. And so I think the mortgage business is something that should be very much built into the complementary add-on services that you provide your customers. And then, of course, we have a lot of people buying property for income purposes. And so I think property management is another very logical additional ancillary service that smart brokers should be looking to add to their portfolio of offerings in the go forward phase.
Martin, one of the things that you talked about was, expanding revenue streams really with brokerages. And, I think that there's some advantage to a brokerage being kind of a one-stop shop for their clients. So I know that the parent company to Century 21 Canada is a company called Charlwood Pacific Group, which you and your brother and your father run. Tell me a little bit about the real estate portfolio that the Charlwood Pacific Group has that had a vision of this like 15, 20 years ago, and how that really complements the Century 21 brand.
It's interesting. When we started Century 21 in Canada in the mid to late 70s, we spent the first sort of 5-10 years building the footprint across Canada. My dad and his original management team, folks like Brian Rushton back in the early days, really helped put the brand on the map in Canada. And then we spent about 10 years really fine-tuning and being very competitive and getting good at what we did. About 20 years ago, we actually started a new company, actually called Centum Financial, and it is a mortgage brokerage franchise focusing on residential mortgage brokerage. And for the last 20 years, we have built that up to be a network of getting close to 200 franchises across Canada and close to 2,000 mortgage brokers that help people across Canada comparison shop mortgages and not just accept one of the big 5 banks auto renewal offers that very often is not a competitive offering compared to what some of the other secondary lenders are offering in the market. So we started that about 20 years ago. And then about 5 years ago, we also brought a brand called Real Property Management into the Canadian marketplace. And that brand specializes in offering property management services to people that own approximately 4 doors or less, 4 income properties or less. And our goal in bringing those 2 additional operating companies into the Charlwood Pacific Group real estate portfolio was the idea that over a lifespan of a customer and over a lifespan of a real estate transaction, we would love to have the opportunity to help them buy or sell a home using Century 21. If they're buying a home, we would love to be able to offer them competitive mortgage brokerage services to do that through Centum. And then for those that actually want to generate some income out of a property that they purchased, to also handle the property management for them so that we can sell them a house, we can help finance the house, and then we can help them property management it. And we think that that is a very, very robust and good way to maximize the real estate opportunities as this industry unfolds and as it gets more competitive going forward.
Martin, we talked a little bit about what the biggest opportunities are for brokerages moving forward. What do you think the biggest opportunity is for the Century 21 brand overall? And what are you doing to take advantage of this opportunity?
Yeah, interesting question. We're one of the long-standing success stories in real estate brokerage in Canada. We've been operating now for sort of 46 years. People would possibly refer to us as one of the legacy companies in helping develop the market across Canada. What I still find fascinating is that we still seem to be one of the best kept secrets in the industry. So if I think about what's one of the biggest opportunities, it's for us to be able to shout from the rooftops that today's Century 21 is very different than the Century 21 that came into the market sort of 40 years ago. It's really hard for realtors also to stay top of mind and to try and keep up to speed with the immense amount of developments that take place in the industry, the new products and services, the type of technology that comes into play. And I think one of the opportunities that we have at our disposal is for us to be that guiding light, to share with brokers and agents what we believe to be some of the best tools in the industry, the ones that we've either brought in as a private label into the Century 21 family or ones that we've built as homegrown, so that we can actually be the ones that sort through the plethora of choices and provide you with a toolbox, if you will, of proven successful systems and products that make your job easier. So long and the short of it is, rather than you having to keep up with all the developments in the industry, we can do that for you. And when you're part of the Century 21 family, we make that easier than you trying to do it alone. And we also have a group think tank of all of our brokers across the network, and we're able to share from each other what we're learning in each individual market And when there's an opportunity for us to learn what's successfully happening in one part of the country, we're able to share that with brokers and agents on the other side of the country and do that very efficiently. And that is one of the big benefits and one of the big opportunities that you have when you're part of an organization like Century 21. It's interesting if you really think about it as well. Again, as I mentioned in one of the previous discussions we were having, there are forecasts that suggest that the 100,000 realtors that are in the market today in Canada are going to grow to 150,000. So there's a lot more agents coming into this business because, again, it's proven to be, the real estate industry is proven to be one of the bulletproof, pandemic era industries. And so it's really, really important that people understand that Century 21 is one of the absolute best places, not only to start your career, but to actually live out your entire career. Interesting stat I'll share with you is that it is a well-known fact that 80% of the realtors that come into the real estate market as newbies do not survive in the industry past their first anniversary. And our statistics show quite the opposite, that if you start with Century 21 and you work with your owner, broker, and the management team and follow the successful paths that we have shown so many others to be successful with, there's up to a 90% chance for you to be in the real estate industry and with Century 21 in your second year and well beyond that. And we think that those are really, really big opportunities for us to be able to share that success path with people and to let them know that if they're considering various options in the real estate market, Century 21 should absolutely be in that final choice. And we hope to earn your respect and win you over to be a member of our family.
Martin, what are you doing now or are going to be doing in the future to better adapt to the new normal?
Yeah, it's so funny, this whole new normal. Again, not just our industry, it's so many others. This very likely is the new normal. I think what we've learned is that remote work is not the enemy. This whole virtual thing is actually something that we can embrace. And if I reflect back on how companies like Century 21 previously dealt with our network, obviously there was a lot of telephone work, but there would be periodic, quarterly, biannual, or once a year events, conventions, etc., where we would see people and be in front of them. Between those events, though, we'd be on the telephone. And I think what this whole new Zoom, go to meetings, whatever platform you're using, culture, it has allowed us to actually have face-to-face, albeit not real face-to-face, not physical face-to-face, but virtual face-to-face, like you and I are right now. And I think when you can see the person that you're talking to, it just creates that better bond. And I think what we're going to see is a much tighter and more cohesive communication between head office and brokerages, and between brokerages and their agents, between face-to-face meetings. And I think that's really going to be a fantastic new approach to how the business is going to be run. Plus, I think over the years, there's always been a bit of an issue as it relates to when you go to sell your home and you have to go through that process of an open house. I mean, I don't know anyone that puts their hand up and says, oh boy, I really want to have 100 people this weekend plow through my house that I've never met before. And the ability to do remote open houses and do virtual open houses, I think is something that's going to be a trend that will stay with us post the pandemic and will be really good for the industry. Then obviously, I think what we're going to see going forward is I think there is going to be a serious pent up demand for some in-person events. Not everyone quite yet is ready to be at in-person events, but we're certainly getting feedback from various individuals that they're really keen to be at the next Canada conference or our next chairman circle or the next awards event. And for those that are going to be fully vaccinated and are comfortable getting together face-to-face, we're looking forward to embracing you and seeing you in person. And we think that's going to be an important part of the culture going forward in Century 21 forever.
So Martin, this is the last question that I have for you today. But what is the biggest challenge that you've ever faced in your career that ended up being a blessing in disguise?
There's been some pretty serious soul searching these last 18 months. And I would have to say, I know this isn't a podcast about COVID, but I think the pandemic and how it affected so many of us so deeply was really one of the biggest challenges that's ever faced, not just this industry, but I think all of us in our careers. And as I reflect on how we quickly determined that Century 21 actually had some of the best resources available to support our brokers and our agents, and that we had an ability to pivot very quickly and provide a lot of that support virtually, really turned out to be a blessing. I mean, I think it's just amazing. There's so many things that we used to do in person that we were able to very quickly adapt to and provide online, so that our broker owners who were feeling quite nervous in those opening weeks immediately felt the support and felt they were part of a family that cared and understood that they actually had some solutions to implement that could get them through some of these tough spots. A number of the things that we provide online over the years have been accentuated and accelerated. One of the things that we've mentioned on a number of occasions is Campus 21.tv. That allows a number of our agents and brokers to go online. Sometimes there's live events. Sometimes there's on-demand events that they can use to support the initiatives that they want to drive forward in their weekly training sessions, et cetera, et cetera. We also have our online university. Again, some of that stuff is done live, again, virtually, but live, and others is done on an on-demand, so people can work through it at the pace that they like themselves. And I think these resources being made available online and virtually has really allowed us to stay ahead of our competition. I think we do it better than any of our competition, but there's also something to be said about a hybrid model where we're not just going to be all virtual going forward. I think as things normalize here, which we really hope to see happen in the next sort of, let's call it 90 to 180 days. Hopefully we'll get back to normal by the early part of next year. But we see a combination of virtual as well as in-person events, because it's good to be next to your neighborly Century 21 family member, to be able to kibbutz, to share best practices, to share trials and tribulations. But also when you don't have the time to get on an airplane to go meet someone, or even to drive down the street and go meet someone for lunch, you have the ability to work on your skill set and the honing of your business, be it an agent or a broker, and to do that virtually at your pace is super important. I think that's one of the things that's really shined for us here through these last 18 months and makes us feel very confident about the future.
Well, thanks so much, Martin. I'm a big believer in video, but I cannot wait to be with the rest of my C21 family members. Thank you so much for being with us. I am so proud to be part of the Century 21 brand, and we really appreciate your time today. So thanks so much.
Awesome. I look forward to more of this in the go forward phases, and thanks for inviting me. It's been very enjoyable. Have a great afternoon.